Go by Jenny or Jen.
Either one is fine.
Either one is fine. Jenny has a background in dental hygiene and a deep heart for service. She never expected her journey would lead to community recovery work. After relocating to Paradise in 2019, she and her family lived for over 2 years in a burned lot in a travel trailer, slowly rebuilding both their home and their hope. That personal experience now fuels her leadership as executive director of the Rebuild Paradise Foundation, a role that she has held since 2021. Jenny is passionately dedicated to helping families return home, navigate insurance obstacles, create defensible space, and rebuild in ways that are safe and affordable. Her approach to recovery goes beyond construction. It's centered on people, resilience, and restoring a true sense of home. So thank you again, Jenny, for your talk to us this evening.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for letting me get a glimpse into your community and share about ours. So I really appreciate it. I'm going to talk a bit today about some of the work our community has really done together to help become more fire safe and insurable, and some practices that we would love for other communities to be able to translate in their own way, based on their own community dynamic. So I'm going to share my screen, and if someone can just give me a shout out and make sure that um, you can see it.
Yes.
Okay, great. Just one moment. Okay, everyone can see this okay?
Yes.
All right, awesome. So we are Rebuild Paradise Foundation, a small nonprofit in Paradise, California. And we were established in 2019 after the campfire. We work to reduce barriers, sorry about my misspelling there, and increase recovery. And when we see an obstacle our community is facing, we work really hard to overcome it. We are just a staff of two, and we are overseen by a board of directors of five. I know everyone's always curious about Paradise, and you guys aren't too far from us, but we have been in recovery for 7 years. And everyone wonders the big question, how are you doing? Um, for a 20-year recovery plan, we think we're doing pretty good. We have over 3,000 newly constructed homes, a population over 11,000. We have brand new schools that are filled to the max. We actually are constructing a new elementary school because we are so maxed out, and we are the fastest growing town in the state 3 years in a row. Our biggest hurdle though is happening right now, and it's with insurance. So we've had many, many hurdles. We are not a community that's going to let a hurdle get in our way. But this one, in 2023, we began to see massive problem with skyrocketing insurance costs in our community. So just picture 90% of our homes are built to Chapter 7A. So we have roof, windows, siding, everything that's more fire resistant. We have significantly reduced fuel load. We've lost over 1 million trees here. And we actually have established almost 19 Firewise communities since the campfire. And doing all of this, we were seeing 600% increases in insurance and policies as high as $30,000 annually. We are a low income community. So you can imagine fixed income homeowners, how this was just devastating, for, losing everything, rebuilding, and then insurance was starting to kick people, like prevent them from coming home. Um, One thing that has been really important in this journey is for our own community to understand where we live. Um, People who live in a hurricane zone, they know. And I wouldn't say that people who live in a high fire zone always know or understand what that means. So we can never change our hazard here in Paradise. We have crazy topography, we have our Jarbo Gap winds, and we are a Mediterranean climate that is fire is part of our climate. So these things we will always be, but we can reduce our risk even though we can't take away the hazards. So how do we build our homes? How do we reduce the fuel? How do we keep zone zero clear? I'm pretty sure I'm speaking to an audience who all understands what zone zero is. Um, but it also has to be very much us working together. So some of the ways we found Firewise communities, you seem familiar with that as well. Such a small discount for being a Firewise community, but I think it plays a significant role in an insurance company's view of a community. So for us, it goes beyond a small discount and it actually helps insurers to look to help get us off of the FAIR plan. There's also the IBHS Wildfire Prepared Home Certificate issued through the Institute of Business and Home Safety. And this help tells insurance companies that you already have a fire safe home. So in our community, we call this the golden ticket. Um, the problem is we have many of these things in our community and still we're struggling. We actually, out of 3,000 newly constructed homes, had about 50 wildfire prepared home certificates. So we began to ask the question why. Our homes are actually constructed to their standard. So why is no one getting it beyond the hurdle of dealing with that IBHS themselves? There was a very specific hurdle that kept getting declined, and that was because they did not have defensible space around the perimeter of their home. They all failed at zone zero. They had a plant, they had mulch, they had something combustible. Even though their home was constructed safely, they were missing this kind of one link. So at Rebuild Paradise Foundation, we asked, is there something we can do to step in and help people get all the way there? So in 2024, we created our Defensible Space Gravel Grant. And this is to help homeowners achieve zone zero. So what this grant is for $200 to $500 worth of gravel. It's for the perimeter of your home and it's to create a non-combustible zone zero. This is to help with both fire safety and insurability. We try to make things really simple to apply for. We're a privately funded foundation, so all of our money for this is private. So the qualifications for ours are you must live in what's considered the campfire footprint, Paradise, Magalia, and Concow, and you must be gravel ready and show that you are the homeowner. So in our case, for being gravel ready, people have to remove plants around that perimeter for their application to even go through to our committee. So this is highly educational grant program. It's teaching so many people in our community what zone zero is and the importance, and then it's giving them the resource to get to the other side. So there's no income qualification in this, and we just require 4 profile photos of homes and that zone zero and the address is visible. So we can match the address of the home to the address in the application. And I believe, let's see, here's just some examples of applicants, what we consider gravel ready versus not gravel ready. On the upper right, you can see a homeowner had a large bush next to the home and they actually removed that. And then lower right, sometimes it's just simple ground cover. I do want to state, I know this is a lot easier for our community and where we are because a lot of people just have dirt and not a lot of people are having to remove long-standing plants. So we are just in a really good spot, although we missed kind of a critical window in the beginning of our recovery. We didn't know this, and some people have 7 years worth of growth, and after losing everything, it's hard to ask them to remove that. I wanted to share some of our success stories. So as we implemented this program, Rebuild Paradise Foundation, we always are in the background advocating and fighting for our community. And we recognized the hard work we were doing, and it wasn't being looked at by any insurance company. We were conglomerated into one zip code and being rejected. So I was fortunately able to speak to two insurance companies, AAA and Mercury, and convince them to come see our community for their own eyes to help understand why we were uninsurable. They actually, Mercury Insurance was not writing any policies, but they were saying they helped communities like ours, and it was very frustrating. So I called them out and invited them to town. Um, they came last October, their wildfire team and their President Victor Joseph, and we showed them exactly what we've done to be fire safe. And one of the places I took them was the very first wildfire prepared home in the whole world that was on the California Fair Plan. The very first wildfire prepared home plus also on Fair Plan. It's a terrible story for IBHS to have homes that are certified and on the fair plan. So we really wanted to change that story. Mercury was really, really, really impressed at the work our community had done and these homeowners. And they started to write affordable policies, getting people off the fair plan really that day. We were able to get 200 homeowners off of fair plan. And since then, we've been able to invite other insurance companies to town to see the similar work we have done. So this is Jeannie and James. They actually have a home that survived the campfire, and they heard about our gravel program through their Firewise community. So they removed their plants near their home. In the after picture, you don't see it, but they did have to put mesh under their deck there to prevent embers from going underneath. But they were able to get off of the fair plan and get Mercury insurance and save about $4,000 a year. Uh, the photo doesn't show their front yard. They do have lots of plants mixed with rocks. They've really done an incredible job to show that plants and like beauty and defensible space can live together. Here's some of the photos of our homes. It is extremely important for us to plant things. They are part of our recovery. So if people want a xeriscape, they are free to do that, but we highly encourage planting safely and keeping zone zero. And we really try to showcase that you can have plants still. We've learned a lot about, understanding where we lived and who came prior to us. And our settlers did, and the natives did not plant things next to their dwellings in high fire climate in California. They knew it was the first line for a fire to hit. The best way you can protect your home is that first 5 feet. So it's very fascinating to me to understand and know all the knowledge that preceded us. And this is actually not a new concept. For us, it's this kind of ripple effect and puzzle of everyone working together. So it's great if one homeowner does it, but it really takes a neighborhood and a town and the Institute for Business and Home Safety and a nonprofit and the insurance industry. All of us are having to work together. We have CAL FIRE. We have this, it's just not one person, and it takes a lot of work. When I started my job at Rebuild Paradise, the last thing I ever wanted to do was deal with insurance. I saw them as the enemy. I have zero knowledge in this, as my background is a dental hygienist, as you heard. But what I've learned over time is it's much more of a partnership. The insurance industry doesn't want my home to burn down, and neither do I. So I've really changed my perspective of working together, and we're not so much as at odds. Um, they can only take on a percentage of our risk. Mercury can't insure our whole community, but as they come in, others come in, and it invites more competition. They can write more policies. It's just a very big circle. Um, Premiums are on the rise everywhere. This is not exclusive to Paradise or Magalia, but we do feel like we are an example. If we have a clean slate here and can't move the needle, it'd be very, very difficult anywhere else. Insurance is extremely ever changing. Discounts requirements always seem to be moving. We've tried to like bring together what we're seeing the most common things. We tell our community zone zero is not going away. Um, it just is something that it's like the new seatbelt, is the best way to put it. We're just going to have to get used to it as a safety measure, and it's going to have resistance and confusion in the beginning. Um, there's new laws and discounts, but those are also ever changing. So these things are confusing to translate to an already confused community. In our journey, we've just also noticed three basic things. Beyond zone zero is our non-combustible gate there within the first 5 feet. I would say our community is 90 to 95% compliant in the non-combustible gate. It is very, very rare to see a wooden gate attached to a home here. It almost looks odd now. And then mesh under a deck. If your deck is 4 feet or lower, you really need to put mesh to protect embers from collecting. So here are some more examples of construction, um, landscaping, and utilizing zone zero. And here's a small story.
Her home survived the Camp Fire, but her entire landscape was wiped out. During the years of COVID, she quietly got to work. What you're seeing now is 5 years of patience, grit, and growth, while still keeping defensible space to keep her home safe. And now she has a garden that is thriving. Let her story remind you that with love, intention, and a little dirt under your nails, anything can come back to life.
That video you just watched, actually, that homeowner's home survived the campfire. It's a straw bale house construction, and the windows broke and everything in the house did not ignite. Metal roof. They lost all of their landscaping and during COVID replanted, but really kept keeping the first 5 feet clear of plants. And so they're avid gardeners on the garden tour and have a beautiful picture of having both safety and beauty. Oops. So there are still a lot of challenges. Manufactured homes are one. They're not studied by insurance in the same way, and therefore very, very hard to insure. I can tell a resident to do all of this work, and there is no guarantee they will be insured or off the FAIR plan. So we speak a lot on really the main importance is actually fire safety. So if we keep that in mind, it's kind of a dual purpose. And I would love for the firefighter to want to protect my home in the event of a fire. And they're more likely to do that if I keep it fire safe. There's obviously a love for plants. I deeply resonate as I am a gardener. Plants are not just simply to be removed and discarded. They carry a lot of memories from family members, from time. So we understand and sympathize deeply with this and really ask if people have to move things to try to replant or repurpose if they're able to. And kind of this is the time of the year to do that as we enter the winter months. I also understand our communities are very different. So we have large lots in Paradise. It's much easier to plant far away when we have a lot of space to work with. So I know that is not the same as your community is working with like much smaller areas and lots. I think there's so much room for creativity and diversity though, and to not let that limit you. And then the last is insurance follow through. So insurance companies, if they're asking us to do this, they need to follow through, and they don't always. So we're hopeful that as more start doing the right thing, others will follow suit. And we've started to see that in Paradise as now we've been able to bring 4 insurers back to Paradise. And insurance is like a very, very complex issue. I still don't always wrap my head around it. This is not just our problem. This is, nationwide. We want to lead the way. It's like a massive puzzle we're all doing. But I think for us right now, we're really trying to teach our community there's a personal responsibility that comes from where we live and trying to understand that. And we want people to have the tools and knowledge, and prepare them and help them understand this is for their safety. And that is all. Um, if you, I'm happy to pick up the phone for more questions or answer any here now, but we feel like it's our duty right now to help other communities.
Thank you very much. That's very inspiring to see how far you've come and the work that you're doing. I'm sure we have a lot of questions. I see Joelle, your hand up.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jenny, for that presentation. I think I was wearing out the clapping reaction during your presentation. So I actually have a couple questions. I'm the Firewise lead for Oakland Fire Safe Council. So I appreciated your comments about the insurance discount because I believe that is a motivation for people becoming Firewise. But as you said, it's a very small discount in the end. And I do always try, as you do, to kind of emphasize that you do it to make your community safer. It's this community approach to mitigation using their framework that makes your community safer. So I was just curious about the amount of dwellings you had. I think you mentioned it, and you said you had 19 Firewise communities. How large are your communities in general? Like, how many dwellings do they have?
We have a big range, and this would actually be a great question. I work closely along with our Fire Safe Council. Butte Fire Safe
Yeah.
Council, they're one of our biggest partners. So actually at Rebuild Paradise, we helped start the first Firewise because it seemed to be such like a hurdle. And then I let the Fire Safe Council take it from there because we're so busy. So I don't know. Like mine is 73
Oh, okay.
dwellings, but it's like when I started, it was less because we have new construction. And
Sure.
so there's some that are smaller. And then in Magalia in the Upper Ridge, there's like in the hundreds. So we have such a wide variety of sizes of community. The Fire Safe Council helps butt them up to one another, so we're all interconnected. We don't have HOAs and things like that, so we use like topography and streets to kind of cut it off. I picked mine based on what I thought like, was manageable.
Hmm.
So, great question.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Peter.
Thanks for a wonderful presentation. That's really inspiring. Um, I have a couple of questions. First, one is on what you think the sort of secret sauce was to flip the switch with the insurance companies and get them to start writing policies and get you off the FAIR plan. And the second question is, did Jeannie and James, their deck, were do the insurance companies insist on making it a non-flammable deck where you said that they had to put mesh underneath, or is it still a wood deck?
Great question. I don't know their deck material, so I don't want to speak for them. I will say, so to answer your first question, I think Mercury would have come here eventually. Um, they think outside the box. They're ahead of the game in the needle. I think calling them out was a big deal. You can't say you're doing something and then you're not. And I think what really shifted is actually them just seeing it. I don't know if anyone in this group has been up to Paradise, but if you see it, it is you would be crazy to be an insurance company and at this time not insure us, even if it's a higher policy amount because of our topography. But when he came, I will just never forget riding in the car with Victor, and he's like, I'll insure that house and that house and that house. Because it's not just that the home is constructed or the yard is, has defensible space. There's like nothing around it also. And then the house like that, next door, which is not next door, is pretty far away, is also like that. And then he saw all the layers in the town. Like we have the ordinance for IBHS wildfire prepared home. Our fire safe council does an insane amount of work. Cal Fire does a great amount of work. So it was like all the layers. He could see like the picture, and no like AI or zip code or anything could really like contextualize that. So the secret sauce was like all the layers, not one singular layer. And this is where Firewise communities actually become a very big deal, because in speaking further to Mercury, they're thinking outside the box of how they're going to insure, and they're going to be Firewise communities that are doing the right thing will get insurance. So it's, yeah, you can't, it's just a together is the secret sauce, I guess.
Great. Did you get press attention? Do you think that, and if you did that make a difference?
Yes, we
Yeah.
have gotten press attention. I went to the Global Insurance Summit. I've also chased down the insurance commissioner. He was scared of me at first, but I realized he could probably help us. So he's trying to pass Assembly Bill 888 for grant funding for home hardening and defensible space. So we have some very micro grant programs compared to what the state wants to do, but it's something, and it had an impact.
Congratulations and thanks for all that.
Thank you, Louise.
Well, yeah, again, thank you for a very interesting and a very inspiring presentation. I was actually in Paradise after the fire, and we did a study of Paradise and the community's awareness after the fire. And my question is, I mean, this is a remarkable achievement that you've accomplished, even if it's 7 years, took 7 years to do this. What was the pattern of communication among the residents? Did you have meetings? Was there an organized effort by your community, your town council, to inform people? How did people really mobilize to address this very significant insurance problem?
This is a great question. So we missed it at first. So one of the stories you didn't see is one of our first homes that was constructed had beautiful plants, 7 years of growth all around them, and they just this year removed them all, put gravel, and got off fair plan. But we missed it the first few years. Nobody told us about Zone Zero, nope. And so this is my message, like to Altadena and the Palisades, is please save yourself some heartache. You are in high fire zone. Just don't plant next to your house. It saves you're going to save a lot of time and money and be more fire safe. So we didn't at first. It wasn't the priority or known, right? We were like dragging 20,000 burnt cars off the street. Um, so this came over time, as I would say, always the community always since the fire has had fire safety in mind. So in everything we're doing, we have our emergency warning towers now. So it was part of our community recovery plan to be more fire safe, but it wasn't communicated down to the residential level as far as taking personal responsibility until the past year or two. So some people did that on their own because they lost everything. So they were never told. But right now we have about 50% of our community is brand new people. How do you tell them? Well, right now, the real estate market, they know they will not sell a house if it has plants next to it. So it's been a lot of it has been town ordinance, Firewise communities, and honestly, the nonprofit really spearheading this communication. And then once insurance backed up what they did and started giving us affordable policies, then word of mouth. Because a neighbor's like, wait, tell me how you're saving 5 grand a year. And they're like, there goes my Japanese maple under my kitchen window. It's like very, very, very motivating. So it wasn't like we've had different meetings where I've gotten to address this, like a state of the town, but we have 11,000 people and there's maybe 70 people there. We've hosted an insurance forum, so we're trying to, but it's a lot of word of mouth. It's our grant program. We've given about 250 grants, and so the program in itself is very educational.
Thank
Thank you.
you. And Louise, if would you be so kind just to explain, tell Jenny what you do, the programs you're working on, and maybe also for a couple folks who might be new on our call this evening.
Well, thank you very much, Doug. I'm the co-principal investigator for a National Science Foundation research project that is called Smart and Connected Communities. And the whole purpose of this program is really to work with communities to identify networks of communication that may not be the official networks. And what we have found in these last 3 years is that it is the neighborhood networks. It's the Firewise communities that Jen and Joelle have been working on. And it's really dedicated leaders in the community that make a difference. What we've also found is that it's really critical to keep these networks live and informed. And that does take work, it does take effort. But I think the benefit is we've also seen a significant increase in the not only the level of awareness, but the level of commitment to make the changes that are necessary to make communities fire safe. We've seen this in Oakland, we've seen this in Berkeley, we've seen it in Marin County, and especially some of the uh, communities in West Marin that had almost given up hope, and and uh, but it's a testimony to the power that people can take the initiative on their own and keep their communities safe. But it literally is keeping that message, keeping that awareness safe, and then staying in touch with the local institutions. I mean, you're close to Sacramento. I know in Paradise there were people from retired from state agencies that were aware. They took the lead in their communities. I'm sure not all of them were able to move back, but it's a process of communication and sharing the information that enables people to have the confidence that they can take the action to live with fire and live in areas that are beautiful, like Paradise, prone to fire, but do not have to be consumed by fire. And I think Paradise is such a classic example. It's a beautiful community.
It is.
And Louise is with UC Berkeley.
Yes, UC
Oh, okay.
Berkeley. And I will say our project does include the two other Bay Area University of California campuses, Davis and Santa Cruz. And it's a very interdisciplinary project. It's engineering. My background is public policy. I've been concerned about what should the government do, but we've had computer scientists that have been developing mini games to enable people to think through possible evacuations. Our engineers have been developing what they call a socio-technical digital twin. And what that is a set of computational models that really take the characteristics of a community, its road network, its major organizations, its informal volunteer organizations to see what the patterns of communication are and how they can be improved. We've been very fortunate to work with the Oakland Fire Department. They've been terrific. And I was pleased to see there's a climate fellow, a new climate fellow, working, I hope, with the city of Oakland. And is that you, Marianne? Uh, but this I will say it's a continuing educational process. And people do learn, people do adapt, but the communication is really central.
Thank you, Louise.
Mhm.
And they've also developed, for example, evacuation simulation modeling software, which is
Oh, I
fantastic.
do want to give one quick update on that. Sarah Lindberg was a presenter at the Oakland Fire Safe meeting They did receive their 1.2 million grant from the National Science Foundation, which was not at all certain given this administration. But they are now moving into the whole process of developing their set of models for actual purchase and communication and sending it out to the communities. And they've got at least one community, Bayo Vista in San Leandro, that is working with them to implement their WUI Go program.
That's great. Great. Good news. Thank
That
you,
is good.
Louise.
Mhm.
Marianne, you have your
Mhm.
hand up, and also thank you, Marianne, for making the connection to Jenny for this evening.
Yes, Jenny, thank you so much for coming. I had heard her speak at one of the Zone Zero meetings early on with the Board of Forestry, I believe, and your gravel program. I'm like, oh, that's
Yeah.
genius. And so with this all, your work is incredible. But one of the things that we, of course, will have to incorporate here, we are not new builds, we are retrofitting. And with that, you said 90 to 95% of your fences have that the metal fencing and it's the norm there. Is that something that you guys have within an ordinance of the city, or is that something, how did you guys work on that, and how is your group working with homeowners? Because for us, one of the things that we have to do is we do need to educate more, of course, on vegetation management around your homes. We have a lot of Firewise groups, but it is still a process. And I know we had Firewise groups in the SoCal fires still, but it takes a long time for retrofitting to get up to speed. So you guys, you're the gold standard essentially, because you're starting from scratch on some of these, and we are having to re-educate people. So how are you convincing people, aside from, hey, if you need insurance, especially with state regulations coming up? I'm just wondering if you have any other suggestions with messaging about fencing and plants, because those are the two complaints that we get from a lot of people as we try to incorporate this education.
Yeah. Someone made a comment about it, like Paradise, we are actually in a sense lucky. And I would never want this fire ever, but we do get a new start. And so it's like a common knowledge. It is a town ordinance about the fencing. You cannot have a wooden fence touching your home, but it has to do with new construction. And so one reason we called our gravel grant the defensible space is because we actually hope to extend our program to include fences for those few remaining and cover the cost just to get it taken care of completely. So I think that idea of incorporating it into a grant program would is helpful. They all look different. I know some people don't like the aesthetic. I think I've just gotten so used to it. All I see if I see wood next to a house is like matchsticks.
Mhm.
So it's just like it does, it's like a mental change. Um, so yeah, I that it is so much harder. I think people can get overwhelmed, right? If you're having to retrofit, you're like roof, windows, all this. I'm like, if you can do two things, do your vents, they don't cost very much, and do zone zero. If you can start there, start somewhere and don't be so overwhelmed that, some people I know are very much on the all or nothing, and I'm on the please something is better than nothing.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. Again, it's so hard to incorporate that, but just giving that dab of hope is positive as we communicate with our community here.
Thanks so much, Wendy.
Yeah, thank you, Jenny. That was such a great presentation. Very inspiring. And I have a question kind of following along with Marianne about the grant program. How, maybe you mentioned this in the presentation, or maybe I missed it, but how did you get that set up and how did you get funding for it?
So we had two prior grant programs called our Missing Middle Grant and Septic Grant that had a really great reputation. We used the money very well. And so we piggybacked kind of a similar system, which actually led to our first funding because we had trusted programs in place. So I would say it was extraordinarily difficult to fund this because nobody had
Yeah.
ever done it. So nobody wants to fund brand new ideas that sound weird and are not sexy. So asking for money for rocks was like pulling teeth. Um, we just thought outside the box. We went to our local irrigation district because it's actually water wise to use rock. So we went within our own community and got small funding. And the first is the hardest, and then you gain a little momentum. And we ran out of funding almost immediately because our program was so popular.
Oh, yeah.
And we just didn't give up. So we recently got 50,000 from PG&E Regional because they saw the small amount of money it cost and the massive ripple impact. So that's our biggest to date. But our local community foundation was probably our other biggest funder, North Valley Community Foundation. So really look within at those trusted partners. We have tons of people making money off of our devastation, and I would always look to those foundations like Tykert Foundation. They work, anyone doing road construction in your region. Most companies have a foundation and give grant funding. So a lot of it was those types of things.
Okay, so private industry, foundations, community. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
and then PG&E. I mean,
PG&E,
they're
yeah,
they're
that's a big one
responsible
for
for
me.
our fires, so
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because here I think one of the big issues is the cost.
yes.
Because it's going to cost a lot for many of us to replace fences, gates, uh, meshing under decks. A lot of I have 4 wooden decks, so it's like, so we have a lot of issues like that here. I think is that's a big hurdle for a lot of people in this area, let alone the attachment to all the plants. And even I think if we do go with zone zero, which of course I think we're headed in that direction, there's so many trees that you have to also worry about the rest of defensible space. And then how do you deal with your close neighbors who may or may not be going along with the program? So,
Yeah, it's a very complex issue. That's why I say we are fortunate and not to like think of every issue in front of you and just start with one.
right. Well, we'd love to see more pictures if you get them, the before and the after. That's really helpful for people to see how people, use their imagination and make landscaping work. So, but thanks again. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And Caleb.
Hi, yeah, quick intro from me because this is my first time attending a meeting. I am actually also a California volunteer. I am with California Emergency Response Corps, and we actually are partnered with an organization called CORE. They do a lot of work in LA for the Palisades Fire and NorCal, Siskiyou County. They do a lot of things similar and are partnered with a lot of Firewise communities and fire safe councils. So I'm just starting off, and so my question was kind of already answered. From what I've experienced and learned from being a part of this fellowship, it's definitely that narrowing down what is necessary and what is best for, residents. As you mentioned, walking past matchsticks, every wooden fence, wooden door. And I live in Berkeley. I do hope to do work in Oakland and Berkeley. And so I just wanted to thank you, and also ask, how do you think that that would translate in a kind of a Berkeley sense? Because I know where, Paradise is. I've lived in the Inland Empire in SoCal. Very similar environments, a lot of tinder. But what was the, kind of outlook when talking to residents? Because from what I've heard from you, it sounds like an extremely difficult situation that you guys overcame. So congratulations to you. But, if I was to, talk to a resident or something like that, what would be the main things that you would emphasize? Thank you.
That's a good question. So one of our actually hurdles is this idea, like I would say a lot of our community says things like we'll never burn down again. So this is something we have to like change. We have to, if they think this, they're not going to change what they're doing around their house. So this is not real. This is not a real idea. If we don't do anything different, this community will have a significant fire again. Um, it's also the idea, changing the idea that the way you landscape and look it looks is boring or ugly. So I was on the fair plan and I didn't even have my front yard landscaped. I couldn't afford it And then when I was able to get off, I used all that money to landscape my front yard. And I designed it, worked with my landscaper, and he just said to me, Jen, your rocks don't have to be parallel to your house. And I was like, ding. Um, I don't know. Like, we live in a California where the most creative people in the world are. I just like I saw drawings from students from UC Berkeley with Zone Zero, and there was not one that looked remotely close to the other in small yards. Um, this is our time to be creative in every sense. And it's not rocks, it can be cement, it can be decomposed granite, it can be dirt. It doesn't have to go parallel to your house. Mine is like a river flowing from the house with one rock color, and then, it's just um, I think if we see it as an opportunity for imagination versus a restriction, this changes our mind a little bit. I think a bigger hurdle, though, is the attachment to plants. And um, for a homeowner who's literally lost everything, like everything, replants something and then grows for 7 years, the idea of losing more is something that mentally people can't really, it's very, very, very challenging. So it's going to be chipped away at. This is not going to happen in a few years. It's going to be many, many, many years, and unfortunately, probably more devastating fires. Um, I wish I had like some magic wand that could make it easier for everyone, but I don't.
Thank you, Jenny, and thank you, Caleb. And if you want to drop your contact information, Caleb, in the chat, that would be great. Any other questions? Any other comments or questions? Again, that was excellent presentation, and thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you guys for letting me in for just a brief night.
Yeah, and you're welcome to, stay for the rest of our meeting or drop off as you wish. But again, thank you so much, Jenny.
Yeah, and please come to Paradise. If you do, shoot me a message.
All right.
They're also on social media, and that's one of the ways that I've been following them. They have a wonderful Instagram. So if you want to pitch that, just seeing how they incorporate different things. You guys were following along with someone who, of course, came from SoCal to Paradise and ended their walk today.
Yeah.
Just some wonderful stories about how they're rebuilding, but also what they're doing in their community. It's very inspiring. What is your handle?
We're Rebuild Paradise Foundation, Rebuild Paradise, California. Also, if you're going to come, I expect you to walk. Like Dimitri from Altadena walked 700 miles to come see our town. So he's just setting kind of a different standard. I'm just kidding. But it was a very inspiring story to see a young man who lost his home in Altadena walk here to kind of shift his life.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Outstanding.
Okay. Next part of our agenda this evening is our Oakland Fire Safe Council update. And